Hi Brian, welcome back to Book Together, our journey together to explore endless stories and inspiration from the pages of books. You ever sat alone late at night, looked out the window, and wondered what truly makes a life worth living? It's the dazzling successes that everyone sees, or the silent scars that only we ourselves understand. I've been there, my friend. In those times of weariness from life's relentless pace, from consecutive failures that make you want to give up, I often turn to books as a companion. And today, I want to share with you a book that made me sit in silence for a long time after closing its final page, The Life of Great Men. This isn't just a biography. It's a journey of self-discovery, a reminder that every one of us can become extraordinary in our own unique way. Let's step into the world of these great people together, and who knows, you might find your own story within it. When I first held The Life of Great Men in my hands, I thought it was just a collection of glamorous success stories, like Hollywood movies with perfect endings. Was I wrong? This book, written by Romain Rolland, French writer famous for his profound works on human life, is not a dry biography. It's a vivid painting of the journeys of these luminaries, from their first thorny steps to their brilliant peaks. The author doesn't just talk about achievements. He delves deep into the shadows, failure, loneliness, self-doubt, and even the moments they almost quit. The most important idea the book brings is, greatness isn't a gift from the heavens, but the result of perseverance, of getting up after every fall, and of living for a purpose greater than oneself. Let me summarize the main content briefly for you. The book is structured as a collection of biographies, focusing on great figures from various fields: science, politics, art, and society. We meet Thomas Edison, who failed over 10,000 times before lighting up the world with the electric light bulb. Abraham Lincoln, the U.S. president, who was once a professional failure with a long string of losses. Helen Keller, the girl who was blind and deaf but became a symbol of willpower. And others like Albert Einstein or Michelangelo, who struggled with their own inner selves to create an immortal legacy. Romain Rolland writes with an emotional voice, not to glorify them as gods, but to show they were just as normal as us. They had fears, pain, and moments of wanting to stop. The core lesson: failure is not the enemy, but the teacher. And a meaningful life lies not at the peak, but in the journey through the darkness. And I realized there's one thing all the great people in the book have in common. They knew how to live a meaningful life. They didn't just live for themselves, but left behind timeless values. A lesson, an invention, a reminder that humans can achieve more than they think. I remember another quote from the book: "The scary thing isn't that you fail, but that you don't dare to continue after failing." Perhaps this is what changed me the most. I realized the important thing isn't to become a great person, but to become a better version of yourself every day, just a little bit, but never stopping. Today, sitting here, I want to invite you to join me on this journey. We will step into the inspiring stories from the life of great men. I will tell you about people who walked through darkness, about their failures that seemed to make them collapse, and the moments they found their own light. And who knows? In those stories, you might find a part of yourself. My friend, in the life of great men, there are stories that, when I read them, made me pause for a long time. Not because they were out of reach, but because they felt strangely familiar. Those great people, they also got tired. They also failed. They were also doubted by the whole world. But they kept going, and that's what changed me. Today, I'll tell you the 3 stories that impressed me the most. 3 people, 3 journeys, and 3 profound lessons about faith, perseverance, and the meaning of life. Now, let me tell you about my personal experience reading this book. Oh, my friend, it wasn't just reading. It was a conversation with myself. I remember clearly the first night I picked up the book after an exhausting day at the office. At that time, I was struggling with a personal project, a small business idea I was nurturing. But it kept failing. Customers said no, ideas were copied, and sleepless nights filled with worry. I felt so small, so useless compared to the world out there. But then, flipping through the first pages, I immediately encountered Thomas Edison's story. The author detailed the long nights he spent in his workshop, experimenting over and over, laughed at by friends as crazy. And then, a quote from the book made me stop and read it again and again. People see the dazzling mountain peak, but few see the cold, dark nights, the simmering wounds, and even the tears shed in silence. Oh, my friend, that felt like a punch to my heart. I suddenly realized that my failures were just tiny, cold, dark nights compared to what Edison went through. Author Roland emphasized that Edison wasn't a born genius, but the most persistent person. His viewpoint, that failure is data, not an end, completely matched my own real experience. Before, I often blamed myself, thinking failure was the final period. But after reading, I changed. Every time a project was rejected, I noted down that ineffective method and continued experimenting. It's the result. My project started to progress, albeit slowly. That was the biggest shift in perception, from fearing failure. I learned to embrace it as part of the journey. Then there's Abraham Lincoln's story, my friend. The author described his journey in detail, from a poor boy in rural Kentucky to continuous failures, business bankruptcy at 21, losing a legislative election at 22, losing his love at 26, and even a nervous breakdown at 27. But Lincoln didn't stop. In the book, Roland quotes him, "I may walk slowly, but I will never walk backward." That quote choked me up because it reminded me of myself in my college years. I once failed an important exam, felt my world collapse, and almost dropped out. The author's viewpoint that patience is the key for the long journey differed from my initial experience, where I was always in a hurry, wanting quick success. But reality taught me that, like Lincoln, slow but steady steps are what lead to the destination. After reading, I started applying it at work. Instead of rushing deadlines, I made long-term plans, breaking goals into smaller pieces. And you know what my relationships improved too? I learned to patiently listen to friends instead of hastily judging. That was a profound lesson. It's okay to go slow as long as you don't stop. What about Helen Keller? Oh, her story truly made me cry. Born healthy, but a fever at 19 months old took away her sight and hearing. Her world was plunged into darkness, but Helen didn't let it consume her. With the help of her teacher, Anne Sullivan, she learned to read Braille to speak and became a social activist inspiring millions with disabilities. Another quote from the book that I love: "The scary thing isn't that you fail, but that you don't dare to continue after failing." Author Roland used this story to illustrate that the greatest limits lie in internal belief, not external circumstances. Comparing it to my experience, I used to think health was a barrier. I have mild anxiety and often avoided social challenges. But Helen taught me that even in darkness, you can see with your heart. After reading, my perception changed. I started daily meditation to train my mind and joined support groups to share my story. In relationships, I learned to be more empathetic with others, to listen without judgment. For health, I applied a small habit, walking 30 minutes every morning. Not just for the body, but also for reflection, like Helen adventuring in her inner world. My friend, reading those pages, I felt like I was talking to you, because who among us hasn't failed, hasn't felt alone? I saw my reflection in Edison experimenting with failing ideas, in Lincoln persevering with a dream, and in Helen overcoming personal limits. Author Roland didn't write to preach, but to connect. He compares the lives of great people to the journey of ordinary folks, emphasizing that the difference is just a choice to keep going or to stop. In my real experience, I found that viewpoint to be true. My life isn't always as smooth as in books, but those moments of reflection from the book helped me change. I used to think success was luck, but the book taught me it's perseverance. And you, my friend, perhaps you're like that too, sitting here listening to this podcast, struggling with work pressure, complicated relationships, or poor health. Let me continue because their stories are a mirror for us. 3 stories. 3 lives. 3 lessons that changed me. Edison taught me failure is not the end. Lincoln taught me it's okay to go slow as long as you don't stop. Helen taught me limits only exist when you believe in them. And you, my friend, who knows? One day your story might be in a book like this, 'cause you too can be extraordinary in your own way. My friend, after finishing The Life of Great Men, I ask myself a lot, why do some people leave a deep mark on this world, while others live their whole lives without creating any change? And then I realized, the difference isn't in the starting point, but in the choices. The book gave me 3 big lessons, 3 keys to unlocking a meaningful life. Today, I want to share them with you. Now, let's talk about the deeper lessons from the book and how to apply them to daily life. The first lesson, persistence is the only path to success. From Edison with 10,000 failures to Lincoln with his string of losses. The book emphasizes that failure is normal, even necessary. Suggestion for you. At work, try the failure journal habit every evening. Jot down what didn't work today and one way to improve for tomorrow. I did this, and it helps reduce stress and increase productivity. For relationships, persistence means not giving up during arguments. Take time to listen, like Lincoln listened to the people. For health, be persistent with an exercise habit. Start with 10 minutes of yoga daily and gradually increase. What about psychology? When feeling discouraged, remember Edison's quote, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." It will help you shift from self-blame to learning. The second lesson, live meaningfully. Don't just pursue personal success. The book quotes Einstein, "The value of a person lies not in what he receives, but in what he gives." Great people, like Lincoln fought for freedom, Helen for disability rights. They lived for something greater. In my experience, I used to only think of myself, but the book changed that. Application suggestion. At work, find ways to contribute to the team. Share knowledge, help colleagues. I did this and gained greater respect. For relationships, practice a day of giving each week. Do one good thing for a loved one, like cooking an unexpected dinner. Health. Share your fitness journey on social media to inspire others. Psychology. Write a gratitude journal. List 3 things you help someone with today. It will lighten your soul. The third lesson, change begins from within. The book tells of Michelangelo, who trained his inner self to create masterpieces like the Statue of David. Roland writes, "If you want to write a great story, start by writing yourself beautifully. Compared to my experience, I used to chase external achievements, but the book taught me that a strong inner core is the foundation. Suggestion: train your intellect by reading 20 minutes daily. Train your spirit with 10 minutes of meditation. Practice patience by setting small goals. At work, apply this by learning new skills. In relationships, through active listening. For health, by tracking sleep. For psychology, with positive affirmations. My friend, upon deeper reflection, I realized this book isn't just about great people, but about us. I was once lost, but the book was like a guiding light. And you too, let those lessons touch you. Chapter ending, my friend. When I closed The Life of Great Men, I understood this. A great life doesn't start with grand things. It starts with a small step, a good habit, a belief in not giving up. And the wonderful thing is, we can start today. Let's try to be a little more persistent, live a little more meaningfully, and love yourself a little more. Who knows? One day, you will look back on the path you've traveled and smile. Dear friends, when I closed The Life of Great Men, I realized that what makes a person great lies not only in their achievements, but in how they face failure. There were times, reading each page, I fell silent for a long while. Because in those stories, I saw my own image. Saw the struggles, the worries, even the tears that perhaps any one of us has experienced. A quote from the book that lingered with me. It's not important where you start, but how far you will go. After reading that, I asked myself, so where am I going? Have I truly been living the life I desire? Perhaps many of you are like me, busy every day, but sometimes unsure of where you're heading. And then I remembered Edison's story. The man who failed over 10,000 times before inventing the light bulb. He once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This quote changed my perspective on failure. Failure isn't scary. The scariest thing is giving up, In this vast world, we cannot choose where we are born. We cannot change the past, but we can absolutely write our future. This book helped me understand that all limits begin in our own minds. And perhaps one of the most precious gifts I received from this book is courage. The courage to try once to believe in yourself, to try once to step out of your comfort zone, to try once to stand firm with your dreams, even if others doubt you, even if the whole world turns its back, my friends. This book isn't just about the lives of great people. It's about the lives of all of us. Because in every story, we see our own shadow. The times we stumbled, the times we got back up, the dreams that seemed so distant. And it reminds us of one thing: every one of us can become the great person of our own life. We don't need to invent the light bulb, write an immortal symphony, or become a world leader. Sometimes success is simply daring to live true to yourself, daring to pursue what you love and never stopping trying. So, if today you are feeling tired, feeling lost, I want to borrow a line from the book to send to you. You don't need to become great today. You just need to be better than you were yesterday. Start with the smallest things. Listen to yourself. Be patient with your dreams. And if you can, try to find and read The Life of Great Men. Because sometimes we don't need a perfect map to find the path, just a small spark of light. And this book is a lantern. I am BookTogether. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episodes of the radio, where we will continue to explore great books, beautiful stories, and inspiring journeys of personal growth together. Wishing you a peaceful night, a bright soul, and a tomorrow full of hope.